Most men think compliments are simple. That's exactly why they fail. They talk too much, say the obvious, and wonder why nothing changes. The truth? A few words, said the right way, can flip everything. Attraction, curiosity, connection, and almost no one teaches this. 10 powerful compliments women can't resist. Proven psychology isn't about being nice. It's about understanding what actually works. 10 powerful compliments women can't resist. Proven psychology shows you how small shifts create massive impact without forcing, without chasing. If you're tired of being ignored or overlooked, this changes the game. So do this now. Subscribe to the channel, because this is where men learn what others never will. And we're pushing for 1,000 subscribers. So be part of it from the start. Topic 1. Why most men give compliments that don't work? He thinks he's doing everything right. Giving compliments feels simple, almost automatic. That's exactly where the problem is. Most men use lines like "you're beautiful," or "amazing," or "you look nice today," thinking it'll make an impact. But in reality, it just sounds generic, predictable, and forgettable. It's like saying something she's already heard dozens of times from different people in different situations. And when something isn't new, it doesn't create emotion. And without emotion, there's no connection. There's a detail most guys miss. A compliment isn't about what you say, it's about what she feels when she hears it. And this is where the silent mistake happens. Many men compliment seeking approval. It's almost like they're asking for validation in return. That completely shifts the energy of the interaction. Instead of coming off confident, he comes off needy. And ironically, the more he tries to impress with nice words, the less impact he has. Ever notice how some people say very little, but when they do, it hits? It's not about quantity, it's about intention. A mentor once said something interesting. A weak compliment says more about the person giving it than the one receiving it, and that makes total sense. When a compliment feels empty, without real observation, it exposes a lack of presence. Now imagine the opposite. A compliment that shows he actually noticed something unique about her, something no one ever points out. It completely changes the game. And this is where the difference begins between a compliment that gets ignored and one she can't stop thinking about, but there's a deeper logic behind that most people don't understand. Topic 2. The psychology of an irresistible compliment. There's an invisible pattern behind every compliment that actually works. And no, it has nothing to do with fancy words or scripted lines. What makes a compliment irresistible is much deeper. It makes her feel truly seen. Not on the surface, not for the obvious, but for something she personally values, yet rarely gets recognized for. When that happens, her brain registers that moment as different, almost intimate. And that's when a compliment stops being just a sentence and becomes an experience. Now pay attention to this. There are 3 silent pillars that turn any ordinary compliment into something memorable: perception, emotion, and timing. Perception is noticing what no one else does. Emotion is making her feel something when she hears it. And timing. Timing is what separates a powerful compliment from random noise. For example, saying "you're interesting" out of nowhere doesn't hit the same as saying it right after she shares a unique opinion or personal story. Context gives weight to words. Without context, it's just noise. And here's something almost nobody talks about. The human brain values what feels rare way more than what feels common. So when a compliment breaks the pattern, when it's not predictable, it triggers curiosity, surprise, even a subtle emotional reaction. It's like she thinks, wait, that was different. And that different is what creates memory. But there's a specific type of compliment that hits this perfectly, something that goes beyond looks and speaks directly to how she thinks. And that's where things start to shift for real. Topic 3. Compliment number 1. I like how your mind works. This is the kind of compliment that catches her completely off guard, because almost nobody says it. Most guys go straight for appearance, the obvious, what anyone can see. But when he says "I like how your mind works," he changes the game. He moves away from the surface and into something much deeper, how she thinks. And that hits hard, because intelligence and perspective are things many women value, but rarely get genuinely recognized for. Now here's the key. It's not just about saying the phrase, it's about earning the right to say it. Throwing this out randomly with no context just makes it sound forced. The right moment is when she shares an opinion, tells a story, or shows a different way of seeing things. For example, she talks about a situation at work and gives a thoughtful or strategic take. That's when he steps in, naturally, almost like he's thinking out loud. I like how your mind works. Simple, direct, powerful. And what's interesting is the effect it creates. This kind of compliment builds a connection that goes beyond physical attraction. It makes her feel like she can be herself, express herself, and actually be valued for it. It's like in that moment he's seeing something most people overlook. And when someone feels truly understood, they naturally move closer. But there's another type of compliment that hits an even more subtle layer, something that has nothing to do with what she says, but with what she gives off without even realizing it. Topic 4, compliment number 2. You have a really unique energy. This compliment is almost invisible, in the sense that very few people know how to use it, but when it's used right, it sticks. You have a really unique energy doesn't talk about looks or anything concrete. It speaks to her presence, the feeling she brings into a space. And that's powerful, because energy isn't something you measure, it's something you feel. When he says this, he's basically putting words to something she may have never been able to explain herself. Now here's the nuance. This works best with a bit of mystery. Instead of over-explaining, he leaves space. For example, she laughs naturally, or the vibe shifts when she walks into a room. And he casually says, there's something about your energy. It's different, that's it. Doesn't break it down, doesn't try to rationalize it. And that's exactly what makes her think about it later. Her brain tries to figure it out. And the more she thinks about it, the stronger that moment becomes. And here's what separates average guys from those who actually know how to communicate. He's not trying to impress, he's observing. This kind of compliment comes from presence, not effort. And when she picks up on that Evan subconsciously, she starts to see him as someone different. Someone who notices beyond the obvious. But there's a type of compliment that goes even further, because it doesn't just recognize something unique, it creates a sense of exclusivity that's hard to ignore. Topic 5, compliment number 3, you're not like most people I meet. This one taps into something everyone feels, but rarely admits, the desire to be unique. When he says you're not like most people I meet, it instantly activates that sense of exclusivity. Not just a compliment, it's almost like he's placing her in a different category, outside the norm. And what's interesting is that it creates immediate curiosity, because her mind starts asking, what exactly did he notice about me? But here's the part that changes everything. This only works when it feels real. If it sounds rehearsed or generic, it completely loses its effect. The key is in how he delivers it during the conversation. For example, after talking for a bit, noticing small details, how she thinks, reacts, expresses herself, he says it almost like an observation. You're not like most people I meet, in a good way. No exaggeration, no pressure. That's what makes it land. It feels genuine, not forced. And the impact goes deeper than it seems. This doesn't just compliment, it differentiates, creates a subtle gap between her and everyone else, and at the same time positions him as someone who notices that. That builds value on both sides. And interestingly, when someone feels seen as unique, they tend to live up to that image, especially around the person who brought it out. But there's a compliment that goes beyond exclusivity, something that hits an even rarer level. Genuine respect. Topic 6, compliment number 4, I respect that about you. This one is rare. That's exactly why it's so powerful. While most men try to impress with compliments about looks or charm, very few understand the impact of showing genuine respect. And he says, I respect that about you. He's not trying to win her over, he's recognizing value. And that completely shifts the dynamic. Because respect isn't given lightly, it's earned. And when she feels that, her perception of him changes instantly. Now the key is in that about you. It's not just saying the phrase it's pointing out exactly what earned that respect. It could be how she handles a tough situation, the discipline she has in something important, or how she stands her ground in a conversation. For example, she talks about making a difficult career decision, and he responds calmly, I respect that about you. Most people wouldn't have the courage to do that. That shows attention, presence, and maturity. And the effect of this is quiet but strong. Unlike typical compliments, this doesn't just create attraction, it creates admiration. And admiration is one of the strongest foundations of any meaningful connection. When she feels respected, not just desired, something shifts internally. She starts seeing him differently, more seriously, more deeply. But there's another type of compliment that works on a completely different layer lighter, almost unnoticed. That feeling of being around someone and everything just flows. Topic 7, compliment number 5. You make things feel easy. This one is subtle, but incredibly powerful. You make things feel easy. This might not sound like much at first, but it hits directly on one of the most valued emotions in any connection: ease. In a world where everything feels complicated, heavy, or draining, finding someone who brings lightness, flow, is rare. And when he recognizes that in her, he's not just complimenting, he's reinforcing a feeling she naturally creates without even realizing it. Now the key is context. This works best after a moment where the interaction flowed naturally, no awkward pauses, no forced effort. For example, after laughing together, sharing ideas effortlessly, he casually says, "You make things feel easy." I like that. Simple. No overdoing it. And that's exactly why it feels real. It feels natural. And her brain links that good, easy moment to his presence. And here's what most people miss. We don't connect just through words. We connect through feelings. This kind of compliment reinforces a positive emotion she's already experiencing in that moment. It's like he's saying, "This right here. This feels good." And when a feeling gets acknowledged, it tends to grow stronger. But there's a type of compliment that goes even deeper. One that validates traits so subtle that almost no one notices, and when someone does, the connection shifts completely. Topic 8. Compliment number 627. You're more observant than people realize. Plus, you have a strong presence. These two compliments operate on a deeper level, almost under the radar. You're more observant than people realize touches on something a lot of people feel, but rarely hear. Recognition of a subtle quality. It's basically saying he noticed something most people overlook. And that creates a sense of quiet connection, like there's an unspoken understanding between them. It's not obvious, and that's exactly why it hits harder. Now, timing is everything with this one. It works best when she shows attention to detail, picks up on something small, makes a sharp comment, or reads a situation accurately. In that moment, he can say, almost like a realization, "You're more observant than people realize." That's rare. Notice how that not only validates her ability, but also positions her as different. It's the kind of thing that lingers in her mind long after the conversation ends. The second one, "You have a strong presence," goes in a different direction. It's not about what she does, but the impact she has. It could be how she enters a room, leads a conversation, or carries herself. When he says that, he's recognizing something people feel, but can't explain. And when someone feels seen for something that intangible, the connection goes beyond surface level. But there's still one more type of compliment that hits in a completely unexpected way, one that challenges how she sees herself. Topic 9. Compliment number 8 to 9. You're surprisingly deep. Plus, I can tell you're very selective. These two compliments have something in common. They break expectations. And when you break expectations the right way, you create immediate emotional impact. Your surprisingly deep works because it carries an implied contrast. It's like saying, "There's more here than meets the eye," and that shifts how she sees herself. Because deep down, everyone wants to be recognized for what isn't obvious. But there's a smart way to use this without sounding weird or offensive. Context matters. This works best after she shares something personal, a thoughtful opinion, or shows a deeper side of her personality. That's when he says it like a discovery. "You're surprisingly deep." I didn't expect that, in a good way. Notice the nuance. He's not putting her down. He's revealing something that creates curiosity and a subtle emotional tension. Now the second one, "I can tell you're very selective," taps into a powerful trigger: value and scarcity. It suggests she doesn't connect with just anyone, that she has standards, which instantly elevates her. But at the same time, it creates an interesting dynamic. If she's selective, then why is she here talking to him? That thought happens subconsciously and increases attraction. But there's one final compliment that ties everything together. Simpler, more direct, and maybe the most powerful of all. Topic 10, compliment number 10, plus the secret behind delivery and timing. Out of all the compliments, this one seems the simplest, and that's exactly why it's the most dangerous in a good way. "I feel good around you." No fluff, no complexity, no trying to impress. and still, it hits straight at the emotional core. Because in the end, it's not about what she is. It's about how she makes you feel. And when someone links a positive emotion directly to another person, that creates an almost automatic bond. But here's the real secret: delivery. Saying the right words the wrong way ruins everything. Timing and naturalness are what make this work. It hits best after a real moment, a genuine conversation, a shared laugh, a natural connection. And then he says it like a passing thought. I feel good around you. No dramatic pause, no waiting for a reaction. He just keeps the conversation going. That shows confidence, shows he's not trying to get anything from it. And when you combine all of this perception, exclusivity, respect, ease, and finish with emotion, you create something rare, an experience. Because in the end, she might forget the exact words, but she won't forget how she felt. And that's where most men go wrong without realizing it. They focus on the words, but ignore the delivery. And when the delivery is off, even the best compliment loses its power. But there's one quiet detail that can either amplify everything or ruin it completely. Conclusion. At the end of the day, it all comes down to one simple question. Do you want to keep saying what everyone else says? Or do you want to start being remembered for what most guys don't have the awareness to do? Because now you see it. It's not about giving more compliments. It's about giving better ones. It's about presence, intention, and emotional intelligence. God, so let me ask you. How many connections have you already lost by saying something generic? And more importantly, what's going to change after this? Because knowledge without action doesn't change anything. Pick one of these compliments, try it in real life, pay attention to the reaction, and learn from it. And if this kind of content opened your mind even a little, then you already know what to do next. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because this is where you learn what actually works in the real world. We're building a community of men who think differently, communicate better, and refuse to be overlooked. And drop a comment. Which one of these compliments have you never used? But now you're curious to try?